Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. 16th India-EU Summit in New Delhi. Negotiations for the proposed free trade agreement successfully concluded. India-EU unveiled the Security and Defence Strategic Partnership. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh says increased momentum will bring two ancient civilizations closer. EU Vice President Kallas calls it a milestone in security ties. US President Trump sends border czar Tom Homan to Minnesota as protests continue after fatal ICE shootings. Some federal agents to leave Minnesota after mayor speaks to Trump. Trump says tariffs will rise to 25% from 15% on South Korean imports, accuses legislators of not living up to trade deal. Unbeaten India takes on Zimbabwe in their first match of the Super 6 stage of the ICC Under-19 World Cup. Ayush Mathre's team aims to extend its winning run. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the visiting EU delegation are holding the 16th European Union-India Summit. India and the European Union, together representing 2 billion people and 25% of the global GDP, are moving closer to a landmark trade agreement. As global supply chains shift, India is emerging as a reliable and trusted economic partner. The India-EU Summit marks a turning point in global trade. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, along with the three service chiefs, met with high-level European Union delegation led by Kaja Kallas, EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, on Tuesday in New Delhi. The meeting comes as India and the European Union mark a coming together to form a security and defence partnership. The signing of the partnership will formally take place during the 16th India-EU Summit, set to take place later today. This partnership is a significant step in strengthening bilateral cooperation in areas such as defence capabilities, counter-terrorism, and cyber and maritime security.
And your visit is very special, and it comes on the occasion of our 77th Republic Day. The occasion marks a moment in celebration of India's constitutional journey and the reaffirmation of our commitment to global peace and security. The shared principles of democracy, multilateralism, and the rule of law support India's growing partnership with the European Union. Together we seek to translate each shared value into practical cooperation for global security, trust-level growth, and inclusive prosperity. Actually, the signing of the security and the defense partnership between India and the European Union is a reflection of established trust in action, and it brings us together in an increasingly complex global environment. I hope the increased momentum of India-EU partnership in economic, defense, and people-to-people connect will bring the two ancient civilizations much closer.
Republic Day was quite an experience, so thank you for that as well, Your Excellency. I mean, it was so great to see, and I was so proud to see that also, our operations were part of this parade, and I think, it shows how we have been able to work together. Like you say, the signing of the Security and Defense Partnership is really a milestone, and we can build on that. There is so much more. Like you said, Your Excellency, that we can work together on the multilateral fora, but also bilaterally to develop the defense cooperation further. So I really look forward to our discussions today and further cooperation in the future.
Our correspondent Amritpal Singh is joining us to get us more. Amrit, we've told our viewers about the coming together of EU and India on a security and defence partnership. Help us understand the significance of this. To what extent will it further cement the relationship between EU and India?
Well, India and the European Union have a defense relationship, an existing defense relationship, which is essentially, restricted right now to maritime exercises, to joint naval exercises. But with the signing of this agreement, it will envisage a deeper cooperation between the two sides in terms of India participating in defense initiatives of the EU. It will also open the door for India and EU to work jointly in terms of production in the defense industry. The details of that will emerge once specific projects take account, but this puts a framework for the deepening cooperation between the two sides. The defense industry initiatives, both sides, including the private sector, can cooperate with each other for joint production, for transfer of technologies, critical defense technologies, and also widen the scope in terms of cooperation in counterterrorism and in the field of cyber and hybrid initiatives. So this framework in that sense is very important or significant because it puts a roadmap for cooperation. Also, it will put in place an annual dialogue, defense and security dialogue between the two, between the grouping of the EU and India. So this will look at exploring possibilities of increasing the engagement from the defense industry point of view, and also, joint initiatives from the defense forces of both the EU bloc and India in various theaters, in the theater of Indo-Pacific, in the Gulf of Aden, in the wider initiatives of the EU like SAFE, etc. Preeti?
All right, Amrit, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those updates and those insights. Earlier, the visiting EU dignitaries, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President Antonio Costa visited Rajghat, the memorial place of Mahatma Gandhi in New Delhi. The leaders paid tributes to Mahatma Gandhi by laying wreath at the memorial. Earlier in the day, the visiting dignitaries paid tributes to Mahatma Gandhi, father of the nation, at Rajghat. Apart from the security and defense partnership, the EU and India meetings will also focus on the FTA. Let's listen into Ajay Mishra's report focusing on the free trade agreement between European Union and India.
India, the world's fastest growing major economy, and the European Union, a bloc of 27 countries together, represent a market of nearly 2 billion people. As global attention turns to the India-EU summit on January 27th, expectations are rising around a proposed free trade agreement that could reshape global trade flows. Amid geopolitical uncertainty, India is increasingly seen as a reliable long-term business partner. After signing trade agreements with countries including Mauritius, UAE, Australia, EFTA nations, UK, Oman, and New Zealand over the past 5 years, India is now negotiating with the European Union, its largest economic bloc partner.
भारत के लिए और यूरोपियन यूनियन के लिए एक ऐतिहासिक है एवं एक मील का पत्थर साबित होने जा रहा है। रिजिलिएंट सप्लाई चेन बनाने में हमको मदद मिलेगी, ग्रीन इनिशिएटिव्स में सपोर्ट मिलेगा और इसके अलावा जो इम्पॉर्टेंट इशू है नॉन ट्रेड इशू, जैसे क्लीन टेक्नोलॉजी है, एनवायरमेंटल रेगुलेशन है, सप्लाई चेन है, इसके अंदर एक मुझे लगता है बहुत ज़्यादा मदद होने जा रही है।
Experts believe that the free trade agreement between India and the European Union will benefit all three sectors: agriculture, manufacturing, and services. Indian agricultural and marine products may gain wider access to European markets, while sectors such as garments, leather, and light engineering stand to benefit. Pharmaceuticals, steel, petroleum, and chemicals are also expected to see improved market access. In 2023, India exported goods worth $76 billion to the EU and imported $61 billion. In 2024, India exported 37 billion euros worth of services to the EU, while imports stood at 29 billion euros. The European Union is still the largest trading bloc for India, and after the free trade agreement, India will start benefiting from the GSP, Generalized System of Preferences, under which no duties are levied on imports from developing countries into Europe.
पिछले कई सालों में जीएसपी के विड्रॉल होने के बाद इंडियन एक्सपोर्ट की जो कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस है थोड़ी सी कम हुई थी, वो एफटीए आने के बाद बहुत ज़्यादा ही हो जाएगी, क्योंकि जीएसपी में जो कंसेशन था उससे बहुत ज़्यादा कंसेशन एफटीए में ज़ीरो ड्यूटी के कारण इंडियन एक्सपोर्ट्स को मिलेगा.
Now let's understand why the European Union is supporting a free trade agreement with India. In fact, amidst increasing global uncertainty, most countries in the world are emphasizing business relationships that are reliable in the long term. After supply chain disruptions during the COVID-19 pandemic and slowing growth across Europe, the EU is seeking to diversify trade and reduce dependence on limited suppliers. Amidst falling growth rates in Europe, the EU will find India to be its fastest growing market. Duties on wine and spirits imported from Europe to India may be reduced. European luxury car companies will also benefit from India's large market. Aircraft, diamonds, and luxury goods will find new opportunities in India. India has maintained that national interests will not be compromised in any trade deal. Safeguards for farmers, the dairy sector, and labor-intensive industries such as textiles and leather remain priorities. India has also raised concerns over the EU's carbon border adjustment mechanism, which could impact exports of steel, aluminium, and cement. Trade talks between India and the EU have been ongoing for nearly 2 decades. Officials have indicated that agreement may be reached on most chapters during the summit. Bureau Report, DD India.
Our correspondent Akshay Dongre is joining us to get us more. Akshay, we've shown a detailed report telling our viewers what this FTA would usher in both for EU and India. But in simple layman's terms, help us understand the significance of this free trade agreement that comes into effect after almost 2 decades of negotiations and talks.
Well, to explain to our viewers how this free trade agreement will work, what exactly is a free trade agreement and how this is going to benefit our economy as well as the economy of the European Union, we have to understand first that what exactly is a free trade agreement. It's an agreement between two parties, especially mainly two countries, where the trade happens without many of the tariffs that are levied on the products that are coming in from abroad. For example, if you are buying cars from Europe, the cars that are made there have used to have a tariff of about 110%, which means a car that it should cost about 10 lakh rupees ends up costing 21 lakh because of the 110% tariff that has been levied on it. And now and same goes for other kind of things that we import from the European Union, the things that are manufactured there, that includes watches, that includes several of things like perfumes, clothes, probably automobiles, other kind of things as well. So all of these tariffs that are levied on these products get slashed under the free trade agreement. Ideally, it should be 0% because it's called free trade agreement, but it will happen in a phased manner to protect the domestic industries as well. So when the tariffs are slashed, and what we are hearing on many things, let's say automobiles, if the tariffs are currently 110%, if it gets slashed to about 40%, and then goes on to just 10% in a phased manner, the cars that were supposed to cost us 21 lakh rupees will end up costing only about 11 lakh. So that's going to be a huge benefit for our public. Now, that is how the free trade agreement is being envisioned for a range of products. Similarly, the Indian goods that used to go to Europe used to have a tariff on them as well, and that is why the things that we used to export used to cost more expensive to the customers in Europe, and they used to prefer other country products, for example, products coming in from America, or products that had lesser tariffs. And now with the free trade agreement, if the tariffs go down, the European government will also take a lesser tariffs and lesser taxes on these products, and the goods will be available to the European markets cheaper. For example, let's say pharma sector, if they had a tariff over 100% and it gets slashed to 10%, that's going to be a huge cost cut for the European customers, and they're going to buy more of our products. So that is how the free trade agreement is going to happen, and it is going to open a huge market for the Indian products and a huge market for the European products as well here in India and there in the European Union countries of about 27 countries. They are rich countries, mostly from developed economies, and have a huge market as far as several of Indian sectors are concerned, including pharma sector, textiles, and other areas as well. So we can see potentially a rise of exports to these countries, a rise of import as well of cheaper goods. So it's going to benefit the customers, it's going to benefit the traders, and it's also going to boost the trade between the two parties.
All right, Akshay, so you explained to us FTA in very simple terms using the word tariff, and tariff has become very infamous given the situation the world is facing at this time. But then talk of the timing of this FTA that comes into effect, given the way US has imposed sanctions, has imposed tariffs on many countries. So at this point, what does an FTA between European Union and India mean for both European Union and India, given the alternate markets for both the sides to explore?
Well, let's start with India first. We have a huge textile sector. Other countries like Bangladesh has a huge textile sector. Vietnam has a textile sector, and we are competitors as far as our products are concerned. So, if let's say Bangladesh has lesser duty, on their products, so the Bangladeshi products are going to cost cheaper to the European markets. That will make the European customers buy more of Bangladeshi-made products. And if the duties are higher on the Indian products, they will cost more expensive to them, and that is why the products get sold less in their market. So in exchange, if let's say if under free trade agreement duties are slashed to a minimum, our products get cheaper there in their market and more exports grow. So India, we have seen in the last 10 years, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has focused on Atmanirbharta, that is self-reliance, growth of manufacturing sector, growth of other kind of sectors as well. So our goods and services that will be provided to Europe and now will cost lesser. That will mean that more of our manufacturing base can expand. We can manufacture more, export more to the European countries, and these are going to be top-end products because of the developed economies there in the European Union. So it's going to be a huge boost, a huge economic boost for our manufacturing base, which can expand, has found a new base of customers, and the products will be significantly cheaper than our competitors. So that is going to be a benefit for our country. But in a time like this, when we are seeing geopolitical turmoil, as you have rightly mentioned, tariffs increasing in countries like US has slapped about 50% of tariff on Indian goods. So that means that Indian products are costing much more expensive now than they used to do earlier. So we have to find alternative markets as well. And under free trade agreement, we will get into an agreement to send our goods there, and our goods will be cheaper. So the customers there in the European Union will be happy. The manufacturers here will be happy in exporting and finding new customer base. So it's going to be a benefit for India. And if you talk about European Union, similar is the case with the EU. They're trying to find they're in fact finding a lot of obstacles as far as their trade with the US is concerned. Under Donald Trump's presidentship, tariffs are being talked about on the European countries as well. There is a war already going on with Russia. So as far as the food products are concerned that used to come from Ukraine, they are scarce. Other kind of finished products that they used to rely on are seeing other markets open up. So it's a competition going on, a full-scale economic competition also going on under the garb of this new Cold War that has erupted across the world, with trade tariffs being talked about on almost all the countries by the US, which is a huge market. So it's European Union will find a new market, India will find a new market in European Union, and it's going to be beneficial for both the sides as far as getting into a written agreement that is legally binding as far as the two sides are concerned. So the manufacturers, the customers can be assured of their products coming in at a reasonable price, and the products going to other countries finding other customer base at a reasonable price as well.
All right, Akshay, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those insights. So that was our correspondent Akshay Dongre explaining us the FTA. We'll keep you updated. But at present, we are heading for a short break. You're watching DD India News. Stay with us.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. Prime Minister Narendra Modi virtually inaugurated the 4th edition of India Energy Week 2026 in South Goa. He said as the country moves beyond energy security towards energy independence through reforms and global investment.
भारत की इतनी बड़ी जनसंख्या है, हमारी इकोनॉमी लगातार बढ़ रही है, ऐसे भारत में पेट्रोकेमिकल प्रोडक्ट्स की डिमांड भी लगातार बढ़ने वाली है। इसलिए हमें बहुत बड़े एनर्जी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की आवश्यकता होगी और इसमें भी आपका इन्वेस्टमेंट आपको बहुत ग्रोथ देगा। इन सब के अलावा भारत में डाउनस्ट्रीम एक्टिविटीज में भी आपके लिए इन्वेस्टमेंट के बहुत मौके हैं। साथियों, आज का भारत रिफॉर्म्स एक्सप्रेस पर सवार है और हर सेक्टर में तेजी से रिफॉर्म्स कर रहा है। हम डोमेस्टिक हाइड्रोकार्बन को सशक्त करने के लिए रिफॉर्म्स कर रहे हैं और ग्लोबल कोलैबोरेशन के लिए ट्रांसपेरेंट और इन्वेस्टर फ्रेंडली एनवायरनमेंट बना रहे हैं। भारत अब एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी से आगे बढ़कर एनर्जी इंडिपेंडेंस के मिशन पर काम कर रहा है। भारत एक ऐसा एनर्जी सेक्टर इकोसिस्टम डेवलप कर रहा है जो भारत की लोकल डिमांड को पूरा कर सके और एफोर्डेबल रिफाइनिंग और ट्रांसपोर्टेशन सॉल्यूशन से दुनिया के लिए एक्सपोर्ट भी बहुत ही कॉम्पिटिटिव हो।
India is expanding global partnerships across the energy value chain, opening exploration targeting up to $100 billion investment in oil and gas.
भारत आज हर सेक्टर में ग्लोबल पार्टनरशिप पर बहुत अधिक काम कर रहा है। मैं अगर एनर्जी सेक्टर की ही चर्चा करूं तो यहां एनर्जी वैल्यू चेन से जुड़े हुए अलग अलग क्षेत्रों में निवेश की बहुत संभावनाएं हैं। आप एक्सप्लोरेशन का ही क्षेत्र ले लीजिए। भारत ने अपने एक्सप्लोरेशन सेक्टर को काफी ओपन कर दिया है। आपको हमारे डीप सी एक्सप्लोरेशन से जुड़े समुद्र मंथन मिशन की भी जानकारी है। हम इस दशक के अंत तक अपने ऑयल एंड गैस सेक्टर में इन्वेस्टमेंट को $100 बिलियन तक ले जाने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं। हमारा लक्ष्य एक्सप्लोरेशन के दायरे को भी 1 मिलियन स्क्वायर किलोमीटर तक विस्तार करने का है। इसी सोच के साथ हमारे यहां 170 से अधिक ब्लॉक्स को अवार्ड किया जा चुका है। अंडमान निकोबार का बेसिन भी हमारी नेक्स्ट हाइड्रोकार्बन हब बन रहा है।
Pariksha Pe Charcha is back. 2026 marked a defining moment in the journey of the program as the dialogue truly went pan-India. Along with Delhi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted directly with students in Coimbatore, Raipur, Devmogra and Guwahati, bringing together voices from the east, west, north, south and the heart of India on one shared platform. This edition of Pariksha Pe Charcha saw over 4.5 crore registered participants. An additional 2.26 crore people actively took part in related activities. The total participation has reached over 6.76 crore this year. With that, we end this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.